The sun hasn't even crested over the ridge of the Badlands when you find yourself already regretting every life choice that brought you here. The Wild West, the land of dust, heat, horses, and death by dysentery, wasn't built for soft modern souls like yours. You step out of a creaky wooden stagecoach into a town called Dry Gullet. Population 43, soon to be 42 once they realize you can't even ride a horse. Your boots brand new and freshly ordered online, though nobody here knows what that means, are giving you blisters already. There's no Wi-Fi, no coffee shops, just a saloon that smells like regret and pickled rattlesnake. Someone's playing a piano, but it's horribly out of tune, and everyone inside looks like they've either killed a man or are waiting to. You're wearing khakis, they're white. That was a mistake. The town sheriff, a grizzled man with a mustache that could slice bread, saunters up and eyes you like you're a talking cactus. "You ain't from around here," he mutters, spitting a perfect arc of tobacco juice onto your boot. You smile awkwardly, trying to explain you're just here to observe for research. He squints. "You some kind of writer?" You nod. Wrong move. Now the town thinks you're either a newspaper man or a federal spy, both of which are equally likely to get you buried under a sagebrush. Your plan was simple. Live a day in the Old West, eat some beans, ride a horse, maybe get a cool hat. But now, with your mouth dry, your back already sunburnt, and a goat staring at you with violent intent, survival seems like a lofty goal. Somewhere, a gunshot echoes. No one reacts. Except you, of course. You duck behind a trough and land face first in something wet and distinctly unfresh. Welcome to the Wild West. You have approximately 23 hours and 53 minutes left to live. You survive your first hour in Dry Gullet by doing what any city-born soul might. You hide behind the nearest stack of hay bales and pretend you're in a dusty version of a theme park. Except this theme park smells like horse sweat and broken dreams. After the gunshot scare, you're hungry, but there's no snack stand. Instead, there's a one-room diner run by a woman named Matilda. She looks like she hasn't smiled since the railroad skipped her town in 1873. You ask what's on the menu. She grunts, slaps down a metal plate of lukewarm beans and a piece of bread that's mostly sand. You chew, regret it instantly. These beans could power a small nation if ignited properly. There's no fork, no napkin, no concept of hygiene. You need a bathroom, urgently. But the Wild West doesn't have bathrooms. It has privies, which are just haunted holes in the ground with wooden seats and a colony of spiders, who view humans as temporary guests. You wander around back and locate the outhouse, a leaning wooden box that smells like the end of the world. You open the door. Inside, darkness. You enter. Something rustles beneath the floorboards. You sprint out before discovering what species it was. Back on Main Street, the townsfolk are gathering. A man is yelling about stolen cattle. Another accuses someone of cheating at poker. You think it's just another argument until someone throws a punch and another draws a gun. You realize you're in the middle of your first Wild West bar fight and you're the only one not carrying a weapon. You duck again, behind a horse. Mistake, it kicks. You wake up in a dusty cot inside the town's doctor's office, which is just a room above the saloon filled with bandages, whiskey, and broken medical tools. The doctor is 92. His prescription for your concussion is walk it off. So far, you've been shot at, kicked by a horse, traumatized by a toilet, and humiliated by beans. You have 22 hours left to survive. You limp out of Doc Clem's upstairs room with a pounding head and half your dignity left behind. Below, the saloon has returned to normal. A drunk man plays a piano with only 7 functioning keys. The air smells like whiskey and regret. You're still seeing double when Sheriff Maddox finds you again. "You're alive," he says with mild disappointment. "Good. You owe me a favor." That's never a good sentence. You try to respond, but he hands you a revolver cold, heavy, terrifying, and points at a pair of boots sticking out from behind the bar. Them boots belong to Jeb Waller. Jeb's dead. Got himself shot last night. You're wearing those now. You try to protest. You have sneakers back at the stagecoach, but Maddox cuts you off. In this town, you don't waste leather. He then spits tobacco again, and miraculously, it also lands on your other boot. You ask what happened to Jeb. Maddox shrugs. Disagreed with Frank over who invented chili. Typical Tuesday. You're starting to suspect everyone in this town is one insult away from a duel. The boots are 2 sizes too big and smell like sadness, but now you're wearing them. Sheriff hands you a crumpled piece of paper. Wanted poster. Frank the Chili Liar, you're deputized. You laugh nervously. He doesn't. Apparently, this is real. You're now an unpaid deputy with a throbbing headache, no training, and a job to find a guy named Frank who may or may not have committed murder over beans. You wander out into the sun, clutching the poster and your second-hand death shoes. A tumbleweed rolls by as if to mock you. A child points at you and says, "That the new lawman?" He gon' die by supper. You try to ignore him. You consider quitting. But the stagecoach isn't back until tomorrow morning, and sleeping in the saloon seems risky. So you sigh, put on the least intimidating scowl you can manage, and begin your hunt for Frank the Chili Liar. Your head hurts. Your feet hurt. And you have 21 hours left to not die. The sun hangs low in the sky like it's waiting to witness your embarrassing death. You and Frank the Chili Liar are standing 10 paces apart, hands twitching near your holsters. His spoon is in one hand, his revolver in the other. You're sweating through your borrowed shirt, unsure whether to draw your weapon or run into the canyon and let the coyotes finish you. "I'll give you one more chance," Frank says, voice steady, eyes squinting. "Say beans belong in chili." You clear your throat. I think chili is versatile. Frank cocks his gun. You panic. "Fine. Beans belong in chili. All the beans. Every kind. Red, black, whatever." Frank narrows his eyes, then lowers his gun slowly. "You've got potential." You collapse onto a nearby rock, nearly fainting from relief. "So, you're not going to shoot me?" He laughs. "What good would it do? You're not even real law. You're just Sheriff Maddox's entertainment." You blink. "What?" "Dry gold's got no crime," Frank says. Sheriff gets bored. So once a week, he deputizes some poor out-of-town sap to hunt me down for fun. Sometimes I scare him off. Once I convinced a guy I was a ghost. You stare in stunned silence. Frank stirs his pot. "Anyway, want to stay for chili?" You're not sure what else to do, so you agree. It's surprisingly good. Too good. Either Frank is a genius cook, or you're starving to death and hallucinating flavors. As night falls, he offers you a blanket and a bedroll by the fire. You lie there, staring at the stars, listening to coyotes howl in the distance, and thinking you came here to survive a day in the Wild West. Instead, you're eating outlaw chili in a haunted canyon, and your boots still smell like corpse. Tomorrow, you'll ride back, if the horse lets you. You drift into sleep sore, confused, and 100% certain you're being watched by a raccoon. You have 17 hours left to survive. The sun hangs low in the sky like it's waiting to witness your embarrassing death. You and Frank the Chili Liar are standing 10 paces apart, hands twitching near your holsters. His spoon is in one hand, his revolver in the other. You're sweating through your borrowed shirt, unsure whether to draw your weapon or run into the canyon and let the coyotes finish you. "I'll give you one more chance," Frank says, voice steady, eyes squinting. "Say beans belong in chili." You clear your throat. I think chili is versatile. Frank cocks his gun. You panic. "Fine. Beans belong in chili. All the beans. Every kind. Red, black, whatever." Frank narrows his eyes, then lowers his gun slowly. You've got potential. You collapse onto a nearby rock, nearly fainting from relief. So, you're not going to shoot me? He laughs. What good would it do? You're not even real law. You're just Sheriff Maddox's entertainment. You blink. What? Drygold's got no crime, Frank says. Sheriff gets bored. So once a week, he deputizes some poor out-of-town sap to hunt me down for fun. Sometimes I scare him off. Once I convinced a guy I was a ghost. You stare in stunned silence. Frank stirs his pot. Anyway, want to stay for chili? You're not sure what else to do, so you agree. It's surprisingly good. Too good. Either Frank is a genius cook, or you're starving to death and hallucinating flavors. As night falls, he offers you a blanket and a bedroll by the fire. You lie there, staring at the stars, listening to coyotes howl in the distance, and thinking you came here to survive a day in the Wild West. Instead, you're eating outlaw chili in a haunted canyon, and your boots still smell like corpse. Tomorrow, you'll ride back, if the horse lets you. You drift into sleep sore, confused, and 100% certain you're being watched by a raccoon. You have 17 hours left to survive. You wake up at dawn, throat dry, boots stiff, and spine permanently misaligned from sleeping on a bedroll stuffed with prairie grass. Frank is already up, sipping black coffee that smells like it was filtered through a boot. You politely decline. He points to the ridge. Town's that way. If Glueball likes you, he'll take you back. If not, there's always walking. You find Glueball glaring at you like you owe him money. You mutter a soft apology and try climbing on. He lets you begrudgingly, but makes sure to step in a cactus patch just to prove he's still in charge. As you begin the half-day ride back, you try to make sense of your life. You came here to live like a cowboy, to feel the grit and glory. What you got instead was chili trauma, outhouse PTSD, and a horse with anger issues. Halfway back, you encounter a group of cowboys driving cattle across the trail. You try to wave politely. One of them squints and points. That Jeb's boots. You nod. Didn't he die yesterday? You nod again, unsure what else to do. Nice, the cowboy says, and rides on. Eventually, you roll back into Dry Gullet like the world's least impressive gunslinger. Sheriff Maddox is waiting on the porch of the jailhouse, chewing on a toothpick and watching the horizon like he's in a Clint Eastwood daydream. Well, he says. You hand him the wanted poster, now smudged with sweat, dirt, and one accidental chili stain. He chuckles. Frank let you live? Barely, you reply. He nods. Means he likes you. Most folks run screaming before they hit the ridge. You did good. You stare at him. Was this a test? No, Maddox says. It was Thursday. You step off Glueball and immediately fall flat on your face. Your knees have forgotten how to function. You're covered in dust. Your pants are torn. You smell like sadness and smoked beans. But somehow you're still alive. Only 14 hours left to go. Dalton Graham walks like a thunderstorm, slow, heavy, and with the distinct sense that something is about to explode. He's the kind of man who doesn't blink often, probably because blinking is for people who miss. His coat sweeps behind him like a shadow with bad intentions. He walks straight up to the bar. I'm looking for a man, he says, voice as dry as the canyon floor. Name's Langley Crow. Carries a gold-plated revolver and a bad habit of shooting people before they finish sentences. The bartender just nods and pours him a drink. You're frozen. Not because you know Langley Crow, but because you're suddenly aware of how loud your heartbeat is and how close your borrowed boots are to the bounty killers. You try to look casual, but you're sitting in a saloon wearing the ghost of a dead man's shoes. That's not casual, that's a haunting. Dalton glances at you, just once. You feel it like a laser between the eyes. Deputy, he says. You squeak. Yes. You see Crow? You shake your head too fast, nearly throwing out your neck. No, sir. Haven't seen a single Langley. Or Crow. Or gold guns. He stares a second longer, then nods once and turns back to his drink. The room exhales in relief. You do too, maybe a little too loudly. Outside, horses whinny nervously. A dust cloud rolls in. Tumbleweed rolls across the road like it's contractually obligated to appear every 15 minutes. Maddox leans in and mutters, "Dalton, stay in the night. You'll want to lock your door and maybe sleep with one eye open. You don't have a door, or a key, or a clue what you're doing anymore." You get up and go outside for some air. Big mistake. Two teenagers are having a shootout over who gets to date Matilda's niece. A chicken runs by on fire, and someone is selling rattlesnake oil as shampoo. You miss air conditioning. You miss quiet. You miss not knowing who Dalton Grimm was. Only 12 hours left to survive. Back inside the saloon, the tension is thick enough to spread on toast. Dalton Grimm is still nursing his drink, dead silent, while everyone else pretends not to be watching him. You, meanwhile, decide it's time to find shelter, preferably one that doesn't involve bunking with bounty hunters, feral chickens, or open flames. Maddox points you to the town's only hotel. It is actually a shed behind the blacksmith's barn with a sign that says, "Boarding room, 5 cents or trade." You pay in your dignity and get a key made of bent iron. Inside it smells like hay, burnt coffee, and regret. The mattress is just a wooden board with an insultingly thin sheet on top. You sit down and immediately develop a new spinal condition. Then comes the scratching. Something's outside. You open the flimsy wooden door and come face to face with a goat. Not just any goat, Sherman. Matilda's guard goat, known around town for chewing hats and hating strangers. He stares at you like he's weighing your soul. You back up slowly. Sherman follows. You lunge for the door. Too late. Sherman's inside. The next 5 minutes are a blur of screaming hoofs and a chase sequence that ends with you on the floor, covered in hay, while Sherman proudly chews your hat like a victory stack. You finally get the goat outside and latch the door shut with a piece of string. That counts as a lock here. You collapse onto the wooden board. Just as your eyes are closing, someone knocks. It's Dalton. You open the door like a condemned prisoner. He holds up a gold revolver. "I found Crow," he says flatly. "Was in your room." "Left this behind." You blink. "In this room?" Dalton nods. "You didn't see him?" You shake your head, rapidly, emphatically, dangerously. Dalton just stares a second, then grins a terrifying sight. You're either lucky or dumber than a cactus in a snowstorm. He turns and walks away. You lock the door again. With more string, you stare at the gold revolver now resting on your shelf. Is it a souvenir, a warning, a cursed object? You no longer know or care. You're just trying to survive. 11 hours left. The sky begins to pale with the first hints of dawn, and you're still wide awake, curled up in a blanket like a traumatized tortilla. You've survived chili duels, goat warfare, a snake whisperer, and a bounty hunter's judgment stare, but somehow, the worst part is the smell of your own socks. You shuffle into town like a zombie in cowboy cosplay. Outside the sheriff's office, something new has appeared overnight, your face, on a wanted poster. You blink. It says, "Wanted for suspicion of harboring Langley Crow. Reward, $25 and a fresh pie. Maybe armed. Definitely confused." You rip it down and storm inside. Sheriff Maddox doesn't even look up from his coffee. "Ah, you saw that?" "Saw it? I am it." He finally looks up, unfazed. "Relax, it's for bait." "Bait?" "We figured Crow might come back for that revolver you're holding. Word travels fast. Everyone thinks you're protecting him now. Should lure him out." You take a long, soul-crushing moment to scream inside your own brain. "I didn't agree to this," you hiss. Maddox sips his coffee. "You didn't say no, either." You realize this is the Wild West version of being volunteered for a school group project. And now the town thinks you're a traitor, an outlaw, or worst of all, interesting. Suddenly, the saloon doors slam open. Again, Frank the chilly liar runs in, panting. He's back. Langley saw him near the train tracks. He's looking for the kid with the boots. Everyone turns to look at you. Why always the boots? You mutter. Sheriff stands up, hand resting on his holster. Looks like your day ain't over yet. You mean my life? He hands you a shotgun. You might need this. You hold it like it's made of snakes. You've never fired a gun in your life. Closest thing you've ever shot was a foam dart in a Nerf war. In 3rd grade. You lost. Frank claps your shoulder. You'll do fine. You won't. 9 hours left. Langley Crow is coming. And you're now officially the town bait. You limp back into town like a war hero who mostly lost the war. Your jaw clicks when you talk, your ribs creak when you breathe, and your boots, still jubs, still cursed, are now scuffed to the point of resembling fried tortillas. Sheriff Maddox claps you on the back. You did good. You glare at him. I got punched unconscious in under 10 seconds. And yet, he says, lighting a match on his own boot, you're still standing. Most folks don't even get that far. Langley Crow is now locked in the town's one jail cell, small, dusty, and directly adjacent to the broom closet. Etta McCrae sits nearby, sharpening a knife and reading a romance novel titled Whispers of the Prairie. You don't ask questions. Frank, for some reason, is trying to make chili in the jail stove. Victory chili, he calls it. Dalton Grimm? Gone. Left a note behind. He's not dead, but he's humbled. That'll do. DG. You spend the next hour helping Matilda sweep up the saloon after last night's chaos. No one pays you, but someone leaves a small pie on your cot. You cry little when you find it. Then the townsfolk do something strange. They start nodding at you, tipping hats, saying your name like you belong here. Someone even calls you deputy without laughing after. You sit on the porch of the sheriff's office as the sun starts setting again. One full day. You made it. Sort of. Not with grace. Not with style. But with sheer, dumb survival instinct and a strange talent for being semi-conscious during danger. Sherman the goat walks by. He doesn't headbutt you this time. Just gives you a look like you're not terrible. You smile. And for the first time since arriving in Dry Gullet, you feel like you've earned a moment of peace. Just then, a woman runs into town screaming. Stagecoach robbery, bandits. 3 of them, guns, masks. Real bad. You look at Maddox. He tosses you the shotgun again. Your moment's over. 7 hours left. The sun as just a smoldering ember as you grab the shotgun and rush to the town's edge, where a small crowd has gathered near the main road. Sheriff Maddox, Frank, and Etta are already there, faces grim. The stagecoach lies wrecked, wheels broken, horses scattered, and the driver passed out under a bush with a branch stuck in his hat. We got trouble, Maddox growls. Bandits hit us. 3 masked gunslingers took all the valuables, left a calling card. You kneel down, picking up a scrap of paper covered in scrawled writing. Dry Gullet ain't safe. Pay up or pay with blood. Frank mutters, they're bold. Etta checks the tracks. They didn't come this way. You notice something strange. The bandits didn't take the food supplies. Or the whiskey. They weren't here for supplies, Maddox says. They wanted something else. Before you can ask, a shot rings out. Everyone ducks, you peek up. From the tree line, one of the bandits appears, waving a bloody hand and shouting, "Tell the deputy, next time we're coming for you." Etta spits. Cowards. Maddox grips his revolver. We chase them at first light. You look down at your boots and grip the shotgun tighter. You're still no hero. That this Wild West is making you something. Maybe a survivor, maybe only 6 hours left.